Hello, listeners and viewers. Welcome to the Leadership Advancements Mentorship Podcast, the podcast that help emerging leaders to understand the journey of great leaders, to see the price that they have paid, for development, and to also emphasize and underscore the role of mentorship in making them an effective leaders that they are. Because nothing happened by accident, everything has to be intentional. So we met today is one of, someone that I so much admire, someone I so much respect. Like I told you, because I have so much respect and value for your time, I don't bring just anyone. I bring people with substance, people that have something to add to you. I bring people that have something to give to you, something to impart you with. Those are the kind of people that I bring. I bring practitioners. So in case you're looking for something theoretical, please, you are in the wrong place, but I want to guarantee you, if you're looking for something that is for real, something that works, something genuine, something that is practical, want to see the best practices, this is the place for you. Without wasting time, I'd like to introduce, without, doing the introduction myself, because he's going to tell us more about him, Dr. Madison. Dr. Madison happens to be the overall Culture Award winner for the Maxwell Leadership in the last concluded IMC event, the International Maxwell Conference in Orlando, Florida. So we're glad to have Dr. Madison. Dr. Madison, how are you, sir? Good to have you.
Hey, I'm doing well. So good to be here with you, and thank you for letting me come into your podcast.
Oh, yeah, you're welcome. So who is Dr. Madison?
Well, I would say that, Madison, I am a African-born, a village boy from the grasslands of Cameroon in Africa. My daytime job is being a university professor. I teach business analytics at Palm Beach Atlantic University, but I'm a father and I am a husband, and I also lead two leadership organizations that are under my care. And so forth. I would like to look at myself like a leader who leads in my family, who leads in the higher education that I am in, and who leads in the community that I serve.
Wow, that is holistic leadership. Because when we have that kind of leadership, and it makes all the difference, because success, according to John Maxwell, is when the people that are closest to us think the most of us. Many people, they don't have that credibility, they don't have that testimony. So it's very important to have that. So my first question for you is, what is the greatest lesson you have ever learned in your life?
Well, the greatest lesson that I ever learned in my life probably is the subject of, a book that I just wrote that was released last December, which is that today is my greatest day. It's not yesterday, it's not even my birthday, it's not whatever, that today is the only day I have, and that what I do with today will be my gift back to God. What I do with today will determine the rest of what people will come to know me for who I am. So that has been a greatest lesson I've learned, that today is a gift that cannot be wasted. Somebody put it this way, he said that yesterday's history, tomorrow is a mystery, today is a gift. That is why we call it the present. So I've committed the rest of my life helping people to handle the present, to not waste the present. Ogmandino said, when you waste today, you literally tear and cancel the last page of your life. And so if there's any lesson I've learned in my life is, what are you going to do with today, Madison? This is today. So that's what I remind myself every day. So it's become my life's, the driving force of my life, making the maximum of today.
That's awesome. In fact, the way you're saying it, it reminds me of the book by Dr. John Maxwell, Today Matters.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah. Because when you understand that, like today is like a gift that everybody received this morning, we all received a gift in a box of 24 hours, and in each of that 24 hours is 3,600 seconds, and I mean, I'm talking about for 1 minute, we have 60, for 1 hour, we have 60 minutes. And for 60 minutes, we have 60 seconds. So for just 1 hour, just imagine you have 3,600 seconds, and just multiply that by the hours. That is 864,000. So that's why today matters. And I like the way you said it. I believe that, what we did today, we affect the future, yeah. So that's a beautiful one. So what are you learning right now?
Well, one of the things I'm learning right now is to understand that, I am an awesome creation, and to understand the fact that that I was created to leave an impact. I was created to leave my footprints on the sands of time. And so every day of my life at this moment, I am asking myself, what am I doing to leave the desired impact? What am I doing to leave, the desired intentional life that I should be living? I don't want to live, life by default. I really want to live life by intention. And I know that and so I'm learning to embrace the greatness that I know already that God planted in me. And I'm learning ways and means of how to unleash that greatness by serving others with the gifts and callings and talents that I've been blessed with. So every day of my life, I'm like, what is it that I'm uncovering about me that I can unleash to the world? Someone said that, the greatest thing that we are afraid of is not the fact that we are weak people and all that. The things that we fear is really that we are really awesome, that we are really capable of fulfilling our dreams, that we can truly impact and change the world, that we can truly transform our communities. And it is that thing that makes us cower back and do nothing. Not because that we can't do something, but really because we truly can do it. But now I am learning to know that all that God has put in me and that all that God has planted in me, it is for me to release it and unleash it to the people that He has called me to. And so whatever I do every day, I'm always thinking to myself, how is that then going to achieve this greater and bigger purpose that I have on my life?
Wow, that's awesome. That's great, because what we are learning at the moment is an expression of our passion. Of recent, I've been learning about habits as it relates to leadership. And in fact, when I started this and being inspired by a mentor in the person of Craig Rochelle, it took me on a journey. And every Monday, I write a special series. I call it ATM, a Teaching Monday on LinkedIn, and I bring it out. And this, it's what I've been dealing with. In fact, it was meant to be for the month, but it happens to overflow. I mean, I'm going to finish that series, next Monday now, which is going to be a new month, because I find that habit is so powerful. It's so powerful. And one of the things I'm sharing of recent is how to start a habit that lasts. And I've really shared this in my mastermind. I'm a mastermind guru. I love mastermind because, I love training. Training is my passion, and because I saw Abraham, how it only took to war trained men, underlined trained men. And I believe training is the key to reigning. That's what I like to do. In fact, I do mastermind every month, and then once I'm done after 5 weeks, take 2 weeks, 3 weeks break, start another one. Of recent, the work has getting to another level now, and we creating a new community called the LAMP a global community, which is going to be a global learning and a community, a global and a growth environment where people will subscribe to be a part of it. So now the reason why I just mentioned that is, habits are very important. Because no matter what the goals that you have, and the author of Atomic Habits, James Clear, he said it so clearly. He said that we don't rise to the level of our goal, we fall to the level of our systems, which means habits. So I found out through research that John Maxwell, he has these 5 habits he does every day. And I give it an acronym so that people can go home with it. It's FT-WAR. FT-WAR. The F is he files every day, he files things so that he can reference it later on. T, he thinks every day, and I believe thinking is the key. Is the key, because thinking is a very powerful, qualities, virtue of great men. In fact, I have a group called the Thinkers Island of more than 200 professionals that I was privileged, to start. I'm also a member of the group. Every day I shared on that platform 5 inspirational quotes. I mean, this has been going on for more than 2 years now. We have professors, PhD holders, bankers, medical doctors, different kind of profession. They belong to the Thinkers Island. This is an authentic community of smart people that are passionate about learning, about growing. So every day we challenge ourselves with inspirational quotes. We don't share nothing but inspiring quote. I'm working on a book now called IQ, inspirational quote, your IQ boosters. Yeah. So the third thing John Maxwell does is every day he writes. Every day he writes. Every day it's a natural thing to him. And then also every day he asks questions. He asks great questions, because good questions informs us. Great questions transforms us. And the last thing he do every day is every day he reads. He reads every day. So that was for John Maxwell. Now, for me, every day I do 5 things. Every day, apart from my time with God, that I don't compromise. I'm a person of faith. I pray and I study the word. I don't compromise on that. I'm in Acts 6:4. We give ourselves continually to prayer and to the ministry of the word. So that's my Acts 6:4. So I do my Acts 6:4 every day. Then these are the 5 things I do. Every day I learn something new. One of the new things I'm learning every day is Spanish. I've done my Spanish class for today. Yeah. ¿Cómo está usted? That means, how are you doing? Yeah. So then every day I find a way to apply. I just apply what I'm learning. I just speak Spanish to you now. I told you and I interpret it. So I find a way to apply what I'm learning, because application will give us a personal experience. Every day I reflect. Reflection is a form of self-evaluation, asking myself 3 questions. What went right today? 2, what went wrong today? 3, what can I do differently? The 4th thing I do every day is every day I take time to, I've talked about every day I learn, every day I apply. Then, the 4th thing I do every day is I prioritize. Prioritization is based on the principle of pre-decision. I pre-decide what I'm going to do. I list everything I'm going to do. I write it down. There's a power of thinking on paper. I call it TOP, top. If you want to go to the top, like Michael Corder said, you need to write it. He said, don't just think it, ink it. So I think on paper, write down in order of priorities, those things that need to be done today. And then the last thing I do every day I share. I find a way to share. And I don't just share because I care, because sharing is one of the powerful ways to retain what you're learning. Yeah. So Dr. Madison, what are your 5 things that you do every day, and the 5 habits that you have built over time that you do every day to take you to your leadership goals? Yeah.
So I would say that number 1, it's about reading. I like to have quality thoughts, because thoughts come from you acquiring ideas from other people and meditating on. So I do a lot of reading. And the second thing, that's the biggest part, one of the biggest things for me, is reflection. I spend a lot of time each day without anybody around me, And not because I'm not listening to music, not watching, just with me, just with me. And then because I do that, then automatically I have to write those reflections down. So kind of write it. And a few years ago, I got this wonderful, beautiful technological, remarkable tool. I had to, I write it down instead of typing it, because there's something about writing, there's something about traditional writing or something. Just has a way to. So I do write that for sure. And then one of the things that I really like to do each day is to add value to people. I just want to do something that gets somebody's life a little bit better, just a little bit.
That is like sharing. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. I want to be intentional about adding value, because I learned that, and even through John Maxwell and our leadership, that when you don't intentionally add value to people, you unintentionally devalue them. So that's why we always say things like,
can you say that again, sir?
Well, I said, when we don't intentionally add value to people, we unintentionally devalue them.
That's awesome.
Every now and then you hear somebody say, well, when you hurt somebody, when you and me hurt somebody, will say, well, please, I really did not intend to hurt you, or I really did not intend to say that. Well, it's because the fact that you did not intentionally set out to add value, you find out that now you're unintentionally doing the opposite of what you would have liked to do. So I think that the key of living a successful life is in being intentional as much as you can, because that is the only way you avoid the unintentional acts that go down to hurt others. And then the other thing that I like to do is just to love life. I just love to. I'm a very grateful person. I introduced myself today by saying I was born in a little African village. I am always thinking about where my journey from where I was in a place where no running water, no electricity, nothing fun to do, and to where I am. I live with a very huge sense of gratitude every day.
That's awesome. Wow, I love that. And when we have gratitude as an attitude, then there's no limit to our altitude. That was awesome. Yeah. Now, at what point in your life did you become aware of your leadership potential? I believe everyone have the seed of leadership, the potential for leadership. And someone said the key to change is, the first key is awareness. Then the second key is acceptance of responsibility for the change. So the question is, at what point did you become, aware that, I have this leadership potential inside of me? And the second question is this: at what point in your life did you begin to pay the price for development? Because it's possible for one to be aware and not accept that responsibility for the change. The responsibility for the change comes when we begin to pay the price for personal development, because the law of the mirror said you can only invest in yourself when you see value in yourself. So at what point in your life did you become aware, and at what point did you begin to pay the price for the development of the leader within you? Thank you.
So right about 1997, I was in my home country in Cameroon, and I was part of an organization, a Christian nonprofit organization, and we had a very charismatic leader that led us, and he happened to step out of the country. So I was called for the very first time to be a leader at the national level to an organization that has been very strong in my nation. Now, and then since it was a kind of a Christian organization, it was a faith organization, I used to just think that, well, if I could just be walking well, doing the right things that I should do, and teaching and doing that, and then that means I'm a leader. But when I assumed that position for the very first time, the people that I was leading in the organization, they would listen to what I have to say. Then they will call our leader, who was in the United States at that time, and ask him whether this is something they should do. So I got frustrated. I am talking to these guys. They're not even listening to me. They're listening to the person who used to be our leader. Now I have a position, but I don't even have influence with the people. That was the first time, and I stumbled for the very first time. with John Maxwell's material, which was developing the leader within you, the very earlier edition. When I started reading it, I said, oh my God, leadership, leadership is something very different from having a position. And so for the very first time, I read that book, and then I actually taught it in our leaders retreat, and I was sharing with them the thoughts and the things that I was interacting with. And then shortly after that time, a great statesman in our nation, he is now gone to glory. He called me one day in his office, and he said to me, he was a cabinet minister, and he called all of his friends around, and he said, this young man is going to talk to us, and this young man is going to pray for us. And then I was quaking in my feet. I was just a very young person, not even used to this kind of lifestyle, and I did whatever I did. I cannot even remember what I did, but later on, it began to dawn on me that this man was showing me that this is your calling. This is what you were called to do. And he told me and told us, he said, anyone you want to see in this country, including the president, I can make you see them. Wondering, like, what am I doing with the president? Why am I seeing him for? But, fast track to today, this is the exact job that I'm doing. Meeting with ministers, meeting with prime ministers, meeting with presidents and people in authority to help them with their leadership. So that is when I began to realize, especially when he put this kind of confidence in me, I began to look at, why did this man do this, what he just did? Why did he call me? Why did he ask me to talk to these people? I have no business talking to them. I'm a young man. I'm just out of school. I'm just trying to find my feet where I am. Why did he do that? That's when I began to realize that there is something that he saw in me that I did not particularly see.
Wow.
To the point where I began now to understand and intentionally begin to pay a price was when I was approaching 40 years of age. I was going through a difficult time in my life. At that time, I would, with my wife and with my marriage, and I was really, really struggling. And I remember going down to the basement of my home every day and just crying. I said, God, just take this thing away from me. Like, what's going on? Like, why are things just so hard? And why are things just the way they are? And I felt like God asked me, like, what do you want to do about this? And I went again the second day, and day after day. And one day I just took a note of a paper, and I just started saying, this is what I will do. And I said, God, if you will give me 40 more years, I was approaching 40 then. I said, if you give me 40 more years of my life, I want to dedicate my life to 5 things. Number 1, I want to be a husband that loved the wife as Christ loved the church. 2, I wanted to be a father who raised his children in the way they should go. I wanted to be a professor who taught more than information systems or analytics, who taught life to my students. Number 4, I wanted to be known as a citizen of Cameroon that served his beloved country, Cameroon. And number 5, I wanted to be a leader who helped men and women around the world discover, pursue, and achieve their God-given purpose for life. And when I made that decision on that day, life changed as it were for me. From that moment, because I knew that I was not yet that husband, I was not yet that father.
That was how many years ago?
And this is now 11 years ago. 11 years ago, yes. I knew that I was not that father. I knew that I was not that husband. I knew that I was not that leader. I was not that professor. I knew I was not that person that I wanted to display. That is when now I started asking, who do I know that can teach me and show me and model for me what a great husband looks like? Model for me, fatherhood. Who can model for me professorship? Who can model for me, a citizen, an impactful citizen? Who can model for me, lastly, leadership? That's when I decided to join the John Maxwell team. That's when I decided to heap up other mentors. And then it started like a few hundreds of dollars and then to thousands of dollars. Then today, I don't even count that, right? Because in the tens of thousands every year that I invest on my personal growth, to have access to certain people. I have a speaking coach. Even outside of the John Maxwell team, I have to have other coaches outside of the John Maxwell team that help me build my potential. So it has been these 5 things that have pushed me, because this is what I live for. So in other words, I evaluate every invitation, every conference I attend. Does it help me do any of these five? And if it's not part of my fivefold ministry, then I have nothing to do with that. Thank you very much.
That was awesome.
That is what drives me right now.
That was great. Miles Morrow, and I like to refer to him as Professor. He said your purpose allow you help you to say no to many things and say yes to certain things. And that's what I'm just desiring from you. So the question is that who are your top inspirers? I mean, who are your top mentors, people that have poured into your life, and top three people that have poured into your life? Top three.
So you just mentioned one of them. Miles Monroe was the first person that I listened to when I was in my undergraduate first year in my little university, my little country. I listened to someone who said that, asked me, do you know why you are here? And he was talking about purpose. And that thing moved me. Like, what? I've never thought about it. So should I? And he became the first person that sparked that desire to know my purpose and to live it out. Dr. In fact, in my new book that I wrote, I made a lot of allusion to the things that I learned from him, because he said the richest spot on the earth is not the gold mines of South Africa or the oil mine, the oil mines in Iraq and Iran. It is the graveyard, because that is where all of the dreams that were unaccomplished, all of the songs that were never written, all of the books that were never written, that is where they are found. And I made up my mind back then that I would live life to the full, but that I would die empty, having voided all of my potential and everything that God put in me. So he was my really first mentor. And the second person that's influenced and impacted my life a lot was one of my very good friends. He's Julius Esunge, who was my leader, the leader that I said my other guys had to consult with him to see whether they would accept whatever I have to say or not. And then thirdly, of course, Dr. John C. Maxwell, and where he just brought me to this place that I am in, and I love it there. So I have more than these, but you said three, so I give you
top three. Wow, that was awesome. Now, see, I'm so really sensitive about time, but you just hit a chord now. And the chord that you hit in talking about purpose, and I'm not interested in getting into any kind of narrative, but this is it. I just want to bring the facts. Just read something about the present shooting in Tennessee, and the exchange of text message between the shooter and the people close to her, before the event started. And she just gave a snippet, just give a clue of what is about to happen and all that, that she's about to end her life today. And the friend is telling her that, no, you don't have to do that, that you have a life ahead of you. And she replied, no, she got no life. Now, what does that mean? There's power in understanding that your life is for a purpose. There's power. There's a quote that says by Viktor Frankl, the father of logotherapy. He said, life is not unbearable because of challenges and circumstances, but because of lack of meaning and purpose. And I believe that. It is the lack of meaning and purpose that makes life boring, that makes life unbearable. In fact, in the principle of logotherapy, Viktor Frankl, what he came up with was different from what Sigmund Freud said. Now, the position of Sigmund Freud is said that life is all about pleasure, but Viktor Frankl disagreed. He said that if life is all about pleasure, that means you will become dull out of that pleasure. He said, Viktor Frankl said, life is all about meaning. He said, if you don't have meaning, you will dull your life with your pleasure. And he came up with 3 things in this logotherapy stuff that he created. He said, number 1, he said, every people need a meaningful work. I want you to note that. You see, at times when people just hear the word work, they think about a job. No, the word work means so many things. In fact, the Hebrew word is ergon. It means to become yourself. So when you are going to work and you're not working, you're not robbing the company, you're robbing yourself of becoming yourself, because the goal of work is not what you get, but what you become.
Exactly.
So he said, everyone needs a meaningful work. Number 2, he said, they need to do it in a community of friends. That means people that believe in what they're doing. That's what you said before we started the podcast. That's what brought you to Florida. You didn't come to Florida because of the weather. No. But because your values is drawing you to make that decision. And the third thing he said, we need to take whatever pain we have experienced and turn it into something that helps others. Wow. So this is the principle, and it's based on a well-researched, and that's why it is so it's a thing that we need to really talk about. Now, what role has mentorship played in your life? I believe for everyone to succeed in life, I created an acronym. We need LAMP, L-A-M-P. L, learning, in-depth learning, not just surface learning. A, application of learning, which produce our own experiences. And we need mentorship or coaching. I said it this way: mentors rescues us from tormentors, and lack of a coach will make us to become a victim of reproach. So we need people that are ahead of us. The last one is peer. Peer. I created an acronym about that. I'm an acronym specialist. That peer is positive, encouraging, empowering relationships. For instance, I and Dr. Madison, we are a peer in the Maxwell Leadership. The peer is people that you are going in the same direction. So my question for you, sir, is what role, and this is the last question, as mentorship plays in you becoming an effective leader? Thank you.
So you see, I told you about the 5 points. You see, again, when I made that decision 11 years ago, I was not that person, right? So, and I had to look for a mentor that would help me become the kind of husband I wanted to become, because I was not raised by a father. My father ran away when my mother got pregnant. I lived my whole life jumping and hopping from home to home. And so here I come and I get married to my wife, and my wife grew up in a well-knit family, well-married, and all of that. And I never had that experience. Now, where do I get a crash course on how to become a better husband? You see, mentorship helped me and is helping me to continue to work on that. And then the same thing, I got a mentor to help me with being a father. How do I raise my children? Again, I wasn't raised with a father. So I am now a father. How do I raise my own children so that they can walk in the way they should go? And so I had to get a mentor to do that. The same thing when it comes to being a professor, the same thing when it comes to be a leader and a citizen of my country. So I've got mentors in all of these different areas that are relevant and important to me. Even just like I have even speaking coaches and speaking mentors and business coaches, because I own a speaking business too. And now I am actually going through mentorship as I speak to you. I just put a mentor to help me sell my book in bulk, so that teaching me, the dynamics of being an author. So mentorship is everything. In fact, when I see any major deficiency in my life today, the way I look at it is, who is someone who can help me in that area? Is it that could I go maybe search a YouTube and help me do that? Or could I just read about it and be able to fill that gap? Or do I need a real person working me through to be able to do that? But this is something that I do every day. So mentorship means everything. By the way, by the time 11 years ago, when I decided on these 5 things, I told you that, and it was never all of that. After this, my wife and I, we started an organization that now has trained over 10,000 leaders in 55 countries. It came through the process of discovering that I was not it and that I needed mentorship. That is one of the big things that the Maxwell Leadership has done for me, giving me tools that I could grow myself and be in a place where I can take a positive message of adding value to people and multiplying value by investing in other leaders to do it. And all of this summarily was mentorship.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that thought. Ben Johnson said, he that is taught of himself has a fool for a mentor. That's what happened when we are self-taught. So it's been a great time with you. The last question I'll ask you is, how has failure shaped your life? Because I know as a professor and kind of like that, I know you might have had some thought about failure, so that people don't say, oh, he's a professor, he has always passed, he has always succeeded every time. But how has failure shaped your life?
So if you remember, I said that the thing that led me to my 5 things was when I was going through the greatest crisis in my life, if you will, which was my marriage, going through a difficult marriage crisis. And that was the first time I thought about the D word, but it was in the crucible of my pain at that time, I decided that I'm going to not to let circumstances define what I become and who I become. I am going to let purpose and intentionality define that. That's why I said, this is the kind of husband I now want to be. This is the kind of father I now want to be. This is the kind of leader, the kind of citizen, the kind of professor I want to be. And when I made that decision at that time, then, and brought in now these resources, the mentors, the information, the knowledge that I could gain, the wisdom that I could glean from others, now to begin to shape me now in these different ways that made the person that today I am. So I will say that that is what really happened. It was my lowest moment of life, but it became my most triumphing moment, because it forced me to reduce life and summarize life to just 5 things. Till today, this is the 5 things that I live for. Everything that I do must fit in this one. So this being on this podcast is because of the last one, to help men and women around the world cover, pursue, and achieve their God-given purpose.
Wow.
And that is why I am here. So I measure all of my appointments, anything I do in my life, 5 things.
Wow, that's the power of value. So in case someone is listening to you, say that, wow, this professor is so awesome, we don't really have so much time. So how can people connect with Dr. Madison? How can people link up with you? And where can they find you,
So I think all over social media, if you go, especially if you use my last name, Dr. Madison Ngafeeson, that's what one of my Facebook pages is, Dr. Madison Ngafeeson, and then Madison Ngafeeson too is that, or and so I'm on Twitter, I am on LinkedIn, and then my organization's webpage is leadmissionsintl.com, lead missions with an SINTL for international. .com, and then one of them is superiorlead.org, superiorlead.org. So all of those, you can find me there, or you just play simple Google. If you spell my name correctly, you'll be able to pull up a lot of interesting things.
Wow. Now that we know that people doesn't have to go to Madison Square to find you, they know where to find you now. So we want to say thank you, Dr. Madison, for your time. We know you're a very busy person. It's been a great time learning from you. And I believe everyone has been so impacted. You've added so much value to people. Yeah. So here we grow. Great listeners and viewers. It's been a very unique time with Dr. Madison. Next time, as I bring to you another valuable and qualitative leaders, I want you to remember that on this platform, we don't just learn it, we also put it into practice because that is the key to transformation. Thank you, and see you.